ऐसा क्यों है कि 50% से ज़्यादा 8वीं क्लास के बच्चों को डिवीजन नहीं आता?
The curriculum today is too difficult for most students. If that student is not capable of understanding it, then it's pointless. We really need to stop being so competitive.
In order to come to IIT, there is competition. An IIT professor saying कि we don't need competition.
We don't need IITs. We need lots of colleges which can do basic engineering well.
What are some things that IIT Bombay should learn from MIT?
The thing that struck me about MIT was
You're working on a couple of projects that are funded by World Bank. How does World Bank sponsor projects like this?
human resource situation is very bad in our country, and I think that's key.
Because of the education?
We really worship people who start companies or run companies.
So who should we worship then?
We shouldn't worship any person. You can look at the whole agricultural problem in India today, right? Farmers are in bad shape. Nobody had looked at the systems.
If I build this analysis system, will government pay me for this?
You'll have to try. Just because we are giving free energy to farmers, they are misusing also. And the distribution company doesn't care about it because it's not a money-making thing for them.
Hi everyone, I'm your host Shivank and we are part of the 01 Network by Zerodha. Together, we intend to bring you insights from the top thinkers in the field of entrepreneurship, technology and investing. You have a very interesting profile. You study physics and electronics.
Yeah.
And then you sold
Yeah.
softwares for some time and then you came back to...
So I was saying, so I enjoyed my electrical courses and I applied for that master's. So at the end of it, I applied for a master's and I got into this electrical in Boston University. I got a fellowship there, a TA-ship, so that's why I went there in some sense. But then the kind of stuff they were doing was very different from... you know, like electrical as an undergraduate, you do analog electronics and digital. And I really enjoyed analog electronics. I enjoyed the, telecommunications, the radiation part, the radiation waves and things like that. When I started my master's at Boston University, the options they were very different. The kind of stuff they're doing is very different. It didn't connect back to, the stuff that I had done.
How did you got into software exactly?
I did a fun course in C++ in my master's, and then I applied for jobs. And at that point, they were really looking for, if you knew programming, it was good enough.
How did Nagarro happen?
Yeah. So I was doing these software projects, which I got by freelancing. So Manas, my ex, he had these contacts and all that, and I got a bunch of some software, and I was doing this stuff on my own. He had friends, IIT friends, and so Vikas Sehgal, who was running this company with his brother, Vikram. So I had started this company of mine, which was called Conflux Systems, and we were doing, with Manas, and we were doing our own software freelancing stuff. And then we, Vikram and Vikas were doing their company, were running their company in Delhi. So Manas introduced me to them, and then I was working with Vikas and Vikram for a while. And then we decided, okay, let's get together and, let's do this initiative together. So that was in 1998 or 99 or so. Okay. And so I liked it. It's not like I like software programming. I do enjoy it. And I was doing that. And so Vikas had started the Nagarro office and I moved to the US later in 2000. Anyway, so I was with Nagarro till about 2003-04. But I had started to feel that I wanted to... I missed my electrical roots because, one of the reasons I took electrical and physics is because I like the physical aspect of the engineering discipline. So I missed that in computer science. And though I like programming, I felt like I wanted to go back there. So that was one thing. The other reason I wanted to go back to electrical also in some sense is that I felt like, so we were running this company and, software development is a really important thing to do. But I felt that I wanted to, and this is in retrospect, it's not like I thought of all these things then. These are sort of just latent things that are sort of, but somewhere you're missing something and that's why you do it. Is that personally, I didn't have that vision for that company. So there were these various factors. So I wanted to be in electrical, I wanted to do research, and I didn't feel like I had a vision in this company, even though I enjoy the programming part. And the other thing I think is also that as the years proceed, your role changes and you have to sort of manage projects, get clients or manage your clients, manage teams, etc. And for that, then you need a different vision or a different motivation.
Right.
Right? So that didn't fit with me so much. I enjoyed it. It's not like I didn't enjoy those years, but I was looking for something more. So then I decided that I'll do a PhD. So that would bring me back into electrical engineering and research. So that's when I looked around. I started to look around, and I was in Boston in those days. I knew that at MIT you can do courses, like you can pay for a course and do a course along with the other graduate students.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a couple of courses over a year while working part-time. I also looked around. I met a few profs there, and I asked them to give me some work. I said that I'll work for free. Let me work in your lab, as a way to get back in. So he agreed. And so this group did work in organic semiconductors. So these organic and they never really, so you may have heard of OLEDs.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So those are made of organic semiconductors, organic LEDs.
Got it. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But the promise in those days was that you'll be able to make solar cells out of these organic semiconductors. But that never really happened. I mean, a few companies started up, but they fell through because essentially they were, the promise was that they'd be cheap because you can just print them. It's like printing ink. But their lifetimes were really poor, their efficiencies were bad, and they would just not be worth the cost of, putting it out there. And also, even by research-wise, the silicon semiconductor prices really dropped after China started, and so everything went away.
So the Australian professor agreed to, let you work in the...
Yeah, so he agreed to let me work in the lab. And I worked for free. I said that, so I worked for about 6 months, and then he said, I had already had 2 courses under my belt from MIT. So I was all set to be a PhD student. I mean, so I applied, and he said, I will, fund you and all that. And so that's why I got into...
Can still also, at this point also, anybody can go and pay and study at MIT?
Yes, I think so.
Nice.
It's so MIT has this whole open doors policy. So in fact, you don't need, you need an ID. You had a gate pass to come into IIT.
Yes, I had
In
that.
Harvard, you cannot enter any building. In MIT, all buildings are open to everyone, as far as I know.
Wow, till date. So I can just walk in randomly, sit in any class.
Yes. And nobody's stopping you. You may want to introduce yourself to the prof. But you can go to the library. You can just walk in. You can walk into any room.
Wow.
Labs, I mean, we close our labs and our offices. But the common areas are all open.
This can't happen at any other place. Wow. This is...
I don't know. Like Stanford, I had inquired. Stanford doesn't allow you to do courses.
And Harvard also doesn't allow you to do courses?
I don't think so.
Wow. What were some other things at MIT which were so inspiring, open door policy? What were some other great things about MIT?
When you say what are the great things about MIT, you have to have something to compare it with, right? It's at the top of its game. So it's very well funded. There's a lot of positive energy because of that. So it was good in that sense. And I think that one of the things when I joined, right, MIT was also very careful about how it treats its students. So they try to make it a very positive experience, a lot of whatever picnics, this, that, and the other. And they treat PhD students very well. So it was nice. Yeah, I have to say one thing that really struck me about MIT profs is that they have very good memories. And they are amazing people. There are things that I would forget about myself, but a prof would remember. It was just so, for example, there's this Professor Terry Orlando. He was the, he had this leadership position in the department, okay. Terry said that, before you leave, you should get at least if you'll go to leave, then get at least a master's, get something, And then he was asking, so what's your publication record and this? So I said that this is, he said that, weren't you writing a book chapter also? And I had, and I had actually forgotten, but he remembered. It was just crazy.
You told him that, but you forget it here.
Yeah. And another example is, I think this was Ananta Chandrakasan. He's in the admissions committee, and, the way they admit students is, I guess the committee sits and discusses applications and decides. So I met him somewhere, I don't know, at some event, maybe a few years later. And he actually remembered that, oh yeah, you're the one who has the company, you are the... like you started. It was just like amazing. So that's what I'm saying. I was struck by it. I would not be, I'm very forgetful anyway.
And if you have to compare MIT with IIT Bombay, fundamentally how these institutions are different. What are things that MIT should learn from IIT Bombay? Because you spent 7 years, 6 years at MIT and 11, 12 years at IIT Bombay. What are some things that IIT Bombay should learn from MIT and vice versa, that MIT should learn from IIT Bombay?
And I'm not saying that IIT doesn't do it. But the other thing that struck me about MIT was that how well they teach the courses. That's the first time I felt that this is how courses should be taught, in the sense that they take a lot of care. Like your exam papers, right? They are set with great care, and you learn things even through the way they ask questions.
Can you double click on your company's experience?
Yeah.
What kind of software projects were you a part of during those times? And then how did the integration happen? How did you decide that we should merge, and how did you do the equity split? What were core areas that you were doing? How was setting up a new office in US? These were the cues that you gave me. So can we double click on this one by one?
I mean, when we merged, that is when, so that time we were all very small entities. Okay, so we were doing custom solutions development, which was what everyone in India was doing those days. And Nagarro still does custom solutions development. So we were doing, I was doing these projects which were, like a system for this accounting. He wanted something to like streamline certain things, some accountant, these kind of things. Like, or a small company wanted a system to manage its inventory or something like that, So these were the kind of projects which I was doing, and I think they were also doing these kind of projects.
Got it.
So getting together was more about having a little more momentum, right? Instead of like two small players just doing stuff on their own. And also getting good people together, really. People who are interested and, who want to do something, whatever. Not good people, I scratch that off, please. I just want to say people with the same, aligned with, the same motivations. And it's just, you're really small entities, so why not get together?
Got it.
And I think, one more thing about software. See, if you're setting up a manufacturing plant, which already has, say, some intellectual property, and then you're sort of replicating it.
Right.
Okay? Manufacturing, really, or whatever it is, that kind of thing. Then it's an idea. You need to get, funding, machines, hire people, and scale it up. With software, the kind of projects we were doing, you need talent. In the sense that you need programming talent. Okay. So I think that's why it made sense to merge and build build a core, like a larger core of programmers. And then of course there's hiring and all that. But the thing with software companies, and those things may be different now, is that if you want to grow in the initial years, you need very interested people actually doing the coding and getting things out of the door.
Right.
Because that's the stuff, basically. That's your product,
And how did Nagarro evolved over the 7 years while you were there?
Just kind of grew by bootstrapping, really. That's how it happened.
Got it. And do you still are a part of Nagarro? Do you still own the equity and stuff like that because you were founded it?
So the company got acquired by this German company, right? Algaer, and then now it's split off as Nagarro. So I do own a little bit of equity, but mostly not, yeah.
Got it. So then you mentioned about, India has to align itself in the academic structure, academic institutions have to align itself, where the research that they're doing has to align with the country's problems. But before, and you are doing a lot of research on that. But tell us, before that, you did your PhD from MIT. How did you come to this electrification ruler and all these stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of that PhD, right, organic semiconductor solar cells, there are two things. One is that I felt like either this technology has to go somewhere. In any field or in any PhD, you have to either be interested in taking that technology or that topic ahead, or you have to be interested in the science of it and just be interested in academia. I don't think I'm really an academic at heart, in the sense that I'm not about publishing papers.
Okay.
I like publishing papers in the sense I like to get my work out there, but that can't be my bread and butter. So I just felt that organic semiconductors, the knowledge I had, was not going to become anything real. I felt at that point. Even if it was, I don't think I was the right person for that. And I just didn't want to proceed in that same area or be in academia.
ठीक है.
To do research in that area. I shouldn't say not be in academia because I'm in academia. But I didn't want to do research in that area in academia. So but I had to do something. And I started looking around and I felt like I wanted to be back in India. I wanted to be in the world of development. So I started to look. In fact, I interviewed also. Like I went and made visits to ISC, IIT Bombay Electrical. And then I decided I didn't want to do, So I found out about, I tried to check what I could do in academia, and it just so happened that I found out about this department. I mean, I didn't even know.
At IIT Bombay.
Yeah, I had just written some emails because I was interviewing in electrical. I wanted to know about, biogas. At that time, I felt like biogas is the thing because, conventional stuff is a huge problem. So while I was at MIT, I was a part of this India reading group.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an important part. So Anna Agarwal, my friend who's from IIT Delhi, and I met her at MIT and some other people. We used to, 3 or 4 of us used to get together and discuss some, like India energy is something we discussed. And Anna's the one who sent around this India energy policy report or something, which had just gotten published. And 4 of us, we read it, and 4 or 5 of us, and we discussed it. And in fact, from there, I sort of started to feel that, okay, I'd rather be doing something like that. Yeah. So that was actually a big, it played a role for me, that India reading group.
And are you still in touch with Anna?
I'm in her.
What's she doing right now?
She is now she was in Center for Policy Research for a while. Then she joined EPIC, which is this energy, University of Chicago. They have one institute here, EPIC. So she was there. So at that time, we saw that this conventional wood burning is a huge problem, and I felt like biogas is the answer, clean cooking fuel. So yes, so when I was interviewing over here, I wrote to people that who's working in this field, or I had looked up, I think Professor Anuradha Ganesh, I had seen something about her. So then people introduced me to Milind Soni, who was the head of the department here at IIT Bombay.
And he still co-teaches a course, something like that?
He's a computer science prof.
Okay.
But of course, he does CTARA work, yeah. So that's how I got to know. So they introduced me to Milind, and Milind wrote to me. And that's really how I got to know about this department at all.
Which is CTARA, Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had not read about it. It just sort of happened. Okay. So then Milind contacted me. I found out about it and all that. And then I came here, interviewed, and all that happened.
So you mentioned it's more likely at places like MIT, where your research can actually spun off into a company. You have been at this center for more than 11 years. Tell us about some research aspects which you think are white spaces, and through your research, these research can be turned into a company. Are there any projects like this?
See, when I came here, I wanted to be in rural biogas. And then I quickly figured out that, I shouldn't say quickly, but I understood that, the thing about development is that you may think this is the solution. This is a good thing, and it should eventually happen, but that may not be the best solution to attack. The solutions you attack may need to be something different.
Can you give us an analogy?
Okay, let's look at rural electrification, since you said that. Rural electrification, so the status of rural electrification today is that, yes, there is electric grid might be very pervasive, and every home may almost have a connection also.
Take it.
But the thing is that electricity really is quite expensive at the end of the day. Okay. Now, if you want to make sure that people have electricity, then you have to also make sure they can pay for it. Yeah. And giving electricity may not put the positive feedback loop into motion, where they are able to, like the connection between income generation and electricity is very tenuous. Okay. There are many other things that need to happen for people to actually use electricity for income generation.
And what are those other things?
They need to have capacity.
Of?
General capacities. Access to capital for one thing, knowing what the market needs. For anybody to start a company, whether you're a big city, wherever you are, you have to identify a market need and be able to provide for it.
Right.
That's not at all easy. just having electricity. Now, supposing there's a village where there's a lot of water, and electricity can then ensure that they can use, irrigation pumps, and so that would be a good thing, because the reason is because agriculture is a traditional occupation for many people in India, and so it's likely that they'll be able to use energy for that, electricity for that point, and make good use of it. Even then, what crops they grow? Like, you can look at the whole agricultural problem in India today, right? Farmers are in bad shape. Okay, and I don't even want to go to why that is the case, because I don't know. I'm not sure who knows. It's just a...
Tell us about your research in these 11 years, which you think can actually spun off into companies.
So I work in energy for irrigation. That's my huge...
Energy for irrigation.
Energy for irrigation. Okay. And now I'm starting to get into demand modeling. So electricity usage in India, you could say broadly, but a lot of it has been for agriculture. So I've been working with that in the agricultural domain for a long time. Okay. So one of these examples is now the electrical networks in the fields. Okay. They have grown up over the years, in the sense that, say, if a village had, 300 pumps 10 years ago, now they have maybe 450 pumps, let's say. Okay. So there was, 10 years ago, there was a certain grid, and these wells get dug in various places, and so the grid keeps getting extended. So it's grown a little haphazardly, naturally. Because as a farmer digs a well, he applies for a connection, he's given some connection. Now, one of my master's students, MTech students, Prathamesh Antarkar, he did this project that he looked at one village and said that, so because it has grown haphazardly, you might have, so essentially the electrical network has like a high tension lines, and then they get stepped down to lower voltage as they get closer to the consumer. Okay, so you have these 11 kV lines in a village, and then you have these distribution transformers which steps it down to 240 volts, and then it goes to the pumps. So in a village, you might have one transformer which has, like, say, 25 pumps, and another transformer which has 10 pumps. Okay.
Pumps, okay.
Yeah, connected to it. These are feeders which are only in the field. So you have only irrigation pumps.
Okay.
Because our villages, essentially in our Indian villages, mostly the homes are clustered in one place. And then they're surrounded by fields. Okay, so these networks are only in the fields, really. So, so one transformer might have a lot of pumps, and one transformer might have very few. One transformer might have these low tension lines that go for a kilometer, and the other for 500 meters. So that's not a good situation. In the sense, you don't want the low tension lines going so long. Okay. So he did this rationalization where he said, okay, can I reconnect some pumps to this, that, and disconnect some LT lines, reconnect them. And that was a very useful outcome. It led to all new connections being electrified at, like, at least half the cost of what a new connection might have cost otherwise. Plus, it led to a better uniform loading on the transformers and better voltage profile for the whole network.
So this kind of, because the efficiency is better, you actually use less amount of energy and the bills are less.
The bills may not be less, because the bills are whatever the farmer's drawing. That will still be the same. But the voltage he gets will be better. Because what happens is that if your LT line is very long, then there's going to be a lot more voltage drop from the transformer till the pump. Okay, so he's going to get poor quality of supply. Secondly, yes, so energy losses will be reduced in the low tension lines.
Are the energy losses, because generally when electricity is flowing through these low tension wires, the energy loss is not, is there considerable amount of energy loss happening?
Can be, depending on the design.
Okay.
So I2R can be, in peak season, it can even be 25%, which is like a huge
amount.
Yeah, in some locations. Okay. So, and then your transformer loading also, if it's uniform, you're not going to have transformers which are overloaded. So, they're not going to fail. Essentially, overloaded transformer, if a transformer has too many pumps, more than it can handle, then it's going to get heated and break down, and then it has to go away for repair.
Isn't it the responsibility of the people or the company, who's the DISCOMs or whatever the energy providers, to actually make the process efficient? Actually distribute it rationally, the transformers and all these LTs efficiently? Isn't it that?
Yeah, it is their responsibility.
But they don't do this?
Not right now.
Tell us the business sense. Can you tell us the business sense? What's the opportunity here?
So essentially, if somebody comes up with a product, okay, that this network needs to be represented on a GIS system or any system. GIS, Geographical Information System, or any system. So now someone's applied for a new connection. Or if there are 4 farmers, you're going to give a new connection. you put it in that this is how I'm going to connect these farmers. Is this the best way to do it? Or can I disconnect some low tension lines? Should I install a new transformer here? Should I do this? There's plenty to project, estimate, analyze, and do out there. Or let's say every 10 years you do some rationalization. Every 10 years you look at the current network in the village and say that, okay, let's do some rationalization. Can I move the low tension networks line somewhere?
Will it be costlier to move that? Because if you...
Moving the lines is not costly because, so that's, we are some contractors. They said it is possible to move the lines. I mean, whether it's costly or not is also an analysis.
Okay, got it.
Right? But if you have a system like that, then a subdivision officer can say, okay, here's a well, now I'm going to say connect this fellow here. Now, is this the best or he'll run a program and say, okay, what's a better network?
If I build this analysis system, will government pay me for this?
You'll have to try.
Okay.
You'll have to convince them that it is worth their while.
Tell us about other projects that you did which can turn into commerce.
What I'm working on right now, it's really exciting, I think, demand modeling. And I've written an article recently in the Indian Express digital version of it.
What is demand modeling? I can, we can
So
understand.
demand modeling means your electricity, you have some demand on the grid. And demand modeling means just projecting that, okay, in this area, based on this kind of a consumer profile, this is what I expect the demand will be over a day, over a year, etc. You can also be able to project that, okay, over the next 20 years, this is what I expect. If things are going to change like this in this country, then this is what I expect the demands are going to change. That's demand modeling.
Okay. And how efficient, how accurate the demand modeling systems are? The current demand modeling
Terrible.
models? Okay. How much electricity do we use in India? Do you have some figures on
In
that?
India?
Huh?
In Maharashtra, it's about 110 billion units a year. Across the country, it's about 10 to 15 times that, I'm guessing.
Okay. And
Or the other way to look at it is that per person on an average, I think our consumption is around 1,000 kilowatt hours per person per year. Per year.
Per year. 1,000.
So now renewable energy has become really important, right? The problem with renewable energy is that it goes up and down depending on its own, the sun goes up and down. So that's how your solar energy will peak in the middle of the day and go down evening and morning, right? So now if you increase solar, like India's solar ambitions are huge.
Right.
Okay. I think the current Indian must be about 380 gigawatts or something is the capacity. And they've projected some crazy, like several hundreds, I've even forgotten. But India's overall target is like in several hundreds of gigawatts. So it's like 50% of the capacity. Basically what it means is that as your solar continues to increase, right? So if my solar peak is like this, but my demand does not match that, then I'm going to have to use my thermal generation to fill the gaps. Because that's where I have control. I decide whether to throw that coal in and generate more or not or whatever.
In order to make that continuous system.
In order to make your supply match your demand.
Okay.
Okay. Or you're going to have to cut back on your solar and wind. Now the problem here is that thermal energy, thermal power plants, right? You cannot ramp up and ramp down every day without it being an efficiency issue. It's very expensive to do that.
Okay. Can't I store?
Can physically do it, but it's expensive.
Got it. Can't I store the solar energy and then provide
You can, but storage is still expensive today. Storage is not cheap yet. I mean, I've been hearing this for a long time that storage costs are going to come down, but they're still not down there.
Okay. Because of the cyclic nature of these renewable sources of winds and solar, you have to either cut down the
solar. You have to say that I'm not,
in order to make it continuous supply in the demand.
Yeah.
And or either you need to ramp up the thermal source.
Ramp up and ramp down the snow to match that. Yeah.
And the ramping is not cost effective.
Yeah.
So what do you think the solution is?
So the solution is that, and there are countries which have done it. Like if you look at Germany, you look at the German demand, right? It follows the solar curve. So if your demand follows the solar curve, then there's nothing like that.
Why does the German demand
Because they have set their tariffs accordingly. So essentially, if you set your tariffs such that power is cheap when solar is maximum generation, then people may move to that time of the day.
Is it proved that if you raise the tariffs of this, people will use less energy? They won't turn on their ACs if the electricity is costing them
No,
more?
so that's exactly where your demand modeling comes in.
Okay.
That we have to understand the consumers. First of all, where is the demand coming from? How much is coming from industry? How much is coming from, residential? How much is coming from commercial? Who can manage their demand? And how can they manage it? These are the things we need to understand. So, for instance, in Germany, this is what, in fact, I had 3 German students in my class, and they told me this when I asked them, that yes, that industry have moved their certain industry, and you didn't know which types, and I haven't been able to find it, have moved their, they have been given lower because of this real-time, it's called real-time pricing. So, real-time pricing means that on the grid, you're continuously monitoring supply and demand. When supply increases, you drop your tariffs.
Right.
So that
People
demand
use more.
increases.
Huh.
So that's called real-time pricing. So they have real-time pricing.
Germany.
Yes.
Okay.
And they must have also done some awareness or whatever it is. So some companies have moved their usage to match that. Now, how they have, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, these are all things for that we need to research. Okay. So if we, so demand modeling means understanding how people are using the energy, what are they using it for, can tariffs affect their usage behavior,
Right.
and how. So because if we want to, unless we understand these reasons, we can't, how are we going to decide what the tariff should be? And you have to have some estimations, right? You have to have some expectations about who will move it what. So yes, so demand modeling is a hugely important thing if we want to increase the renewable usage on the grid.
Got it. And if I need to demand model, what are things that I should, what is the skill set that it will require for a 20-year-old in order to do demand modeling efficiently?
That's a great question. And that's where it connects to CTARA's interdisciplinary academic curriculum. So I need to know who are the types of consumers out there. So supposing I say industry, because industry is a large part. What are the types of industries? Process industries or, assembly line industries, which ones can operate at night or even do operate at night, which ones operate in the day.
Can I ask the discoms and these providers to tell us whom are you supplying this energy to?
I think we should. As a faculty member, I am trying to do that. That's the data I'm trying to get. And you can. As a researcher, yes, you can get it. I can get it. Now, whether a company can get it, I don't know. That's not they may not be, I don't know what the next steps to that are.
Got it.
But as a researcher, you should be able to get some data on this demand. But you should also look at other. So now, as somebody who wants to research it, besides the actual demand data, the electricity data, I have to also go out and see what are the type of industries out there. How are they using the energy?
Let's say there are 5 industries. How will they use the energy differently?
They may not want to turn off their process at night. Okay. So now in Maharashtra, you have these time of day tariffs. So at night, when demand is generally low, the tariffs are lower.
So overall, you have figured out that night consumption is lower.
But not very much.
Oh.
So what you have said is actually absolutely right.
And why can't you ask the policymakers, why did you choose to have this kind of tariff system?
You can. And you should.
Okay.
However, as researchers, we need to do our own research and give the policymakers feedback.
Got it.
I assure you, there is not enough research being done. And more importantly, there are not enough tools to make policy decisions based on data.
What do you mean by these tools? What kind of tools would you need?
So let's look at this demand modeling example itself, which takes up sample data, representative sample data or some data to tell a policymaker, okay, where is the demand coming from? Which type of consumers is it coming from? How will, basically just what we just discussed.
Right.
How will tariffs affect their usage? These things should be incorporated into a tool, because then they can say, okay, so now if we expect the industry, there are various points where data comes in from, right? So supposing you know that, okay, industry is going to grow, this is what we expect. So then how will it change the demand?
So there has to be some person who need to create a system where the system is taking all the data and then putting all these analytics over it.
Yes.
Okay. And if some...
And it should be updatable.
Tell us some other industries, or tell us some other studies that you have done which engage the real world.
You have some road network, you have some public transport, you have in Mumbai, you have trains, now you have this metro. How do you decide how this should develop further? What is it that we need to do to develop a better transportation system in a city, in a state, in a district, in a country?
You survey where the mobility is, where are people, where are the residential area, where are the commercial areas, how the people, what are the routes which are mostly used, and then put it.
You're right about all this. So first of all, are there systems that allow us to do this? In fact, this should not even be a static study. That's what I mean. There needs to be a tool where this data is constantly aggregated, analyzed, and updated.
So you're working on a couple of projects that are funded by World Bank. Two questions. What are these projects and how does World Bank, sponsor projects like this? How does the system work? What are the mechanics of these?
The way this World Bank thing turned out is that the World Bank is working with the Department of Agriculture, Government of Maharashtra. So they've been working with this project which is called Project on Climate Resilient Agriculture, which is to address vulnerable farmers, okay, against climate change.
Okay.
So they've been working in the 15 districts of Maharashtra, Vidarbha and Marathwada, which are very drought prone since 2017. I think that the way this project turned out is that POCRA, Project on Climate, contacted my colleague, Professor Milind Soni, who works in water, Project on Climate Resilient Agriculture.
Okay.
So that's the project that is being funded by the World Bank. They contacted him because he's been working on water, and that's how that connection started.
What's the problem statement that you're working on?
Essentially, I'm working on the energy for irrigation, and my colleague Milind Soni is looking at the water aspect. So water and energy for farming. Until we started working on these projects, right, there's very little research being done on energy for irrigation at the level that we are doing. That is to improve systems and to make them more efficient. A lot of work has been done on energy for irrigation. Essentially, energy for irrigation is highly subsidized. Okay. And quality of supply to farmers is very poor. So there's a lot of work out there on how, just because we are giving free energy to farmers, the distribution companies, they are also, yes, they are misusing also. There is that narrative also, and also that the distribution company doesn't care about it because it's not a money-making thing for them. There was a lot of study on that, okay? And yes, it does lead to distortions in, what crops are growing where, etc.
Right.
But nobody had looked at the systems to how those systems can be improved. So this is something we started doing. A lot of farmers in Maharashtra, they are rain-fed. That is, they do their cropping in the Kharif season from June till September. Okay, just the water is irrigating their field. I mean, the rainfall is just, soil moisture is because of rainfall, and that's how their crops grow. Okay, about 1/3. I mean, if you look at the number of connections and farmers, maybe 30% of the land holdings is the number of electric connection for pumps. It's not exactly 1-to-1, but you could say that, 1/3 of the farmers have access to irrigation. This actually, it connects to both your questions. Essentially, changes in rainfall because of climate change are really affecting these farmers. So if you have a long dry spell, that is, if you don't have rain for say 15, 20, 30 days, ground is going to dry up, your crop is definitely going to suffer. Okay. So you need like a more evenly distributed rainfall. Climate change is leading to a lot of these anomalies. That is rainfall in November, December, very late monsoons. At least that's what I mean, nobody knows, right, what climate change is, what's due to climate change, but these things are definitely happening.
Okay.
Or very heavy rainfall sometimes.
Right.
That's a problem because it floods your fields, and that's not good for the crops. Because if there's excess moisture in the soil, crops cannot take up water.
Right.
So now, if a farmer has access to irrigation and there's a dry spell, if he has a well with at least some water, he can ride out that dry spell. So that's called protective irrigation. Now, protective irrigation can be extremely beneficial. So yeah, so most of the farmers do, like everyone does this Kharif cropping, but not everyone does the Rabi, the winter crop. because they don't have access to irrigation. So you may not ensure Rabi irrigation in the Rabi season to all farmers, but if you can ensure protective irrigation to all farmers, that's very valuable. Okay. So how do you ensure that you have, say, I don't know, a piped water network or, solutions, various solutions, or ensure that farmers have access to an electric connection, at least for protective irrigation, if not for Rabi irrigation. If you want to reduce the subsidy or whatever. I mean, this is just like I'm talking very roughly, but so these things need some engineering solutions. Like the low cost network like that I talked about, how do you reduce cost by restructuring? Or maybe sharing water from wells, in the dry period, something like that. So if you want to share water across, right, then how can you have like a piped water network? How do you design a piped water network that makes sense in that village? One thing we were working on right now is this load management or load scheduling. So essentially, what happens in Maharashtra is that because you're not doing irrigation all year round, the cost per connection infrastructure is quite high compared to the energy usage. You're not doing things like, year-round cropping or it's just the nature of the agroclimatic. If on a distribution transformer, you have, you have some capacity, 100 kVA. Now you have 30 pumps. 30 pumps is quite, if all 30 pumps start irrigating at one time, that transformer may get overloaded. So you may want to cut it down. If you expect that everyone's going to irrigate at one time, then you may need 20 pumps or 25 pumps. All farmers are not irrigating all the time. There's a cycle. Like if I have wheat, I irrigate once every 10 days. Okay. So I might take 4 days to irrigate 1 hectare and I have 1 hectare of wheat. So I'll do irrigation for 4 days and then after another 6 days have gone by, that is a 10-day cycle, I will irrigate again. So everyone's not using their pumps all the time. But if you can get the farmers to then sit down and make a timetable, then you can even out the load on the transformer so that you have a greater number of pumps which can connect to one transformer.
Let's say if I make this efficient system, I make a model which can solve this timetable issue and can effectively evenly distribute. I can help in the evenly distribute. How will this model make money? Who will pay for this?
So here's the thing. MSCDCL, this is the distribution company. It's hugely beneficial to them because right now, if a transformer breaks down, they have to spend 20,000 rupees to get it repaired. Then in addition, the losses are more. If the low tension network is heavily loaded, losses are much more. The losses go to them.
Right.
So it is valuable for them to make this happen. It's also valuable for the farmers, in fact, because transformer breaks down, they can't do anything.
Got it.
And also if there's heavy loading, the voltage is poor and then it's extremely inconvenient. There are all kinds of issues, really.
So is it a state, MSCDCL is a state-owned company?
It is a public sector company.
It's a public sector company. More than 50% of the folks in rural areas in class 8.
Not rural areas, just overall. I mean, so many urban students also may not.
Urban students may not know how to do basic division.
Yeah.
What do you think? Where is the problem? And how is this problem evolving at the nascent stages, such like class 8, 9, 10, and then in the engineering education part? Can you break this problem down?
You have to start at the level of the student to teach. You can't say, this is what I'm going to teach and this is what I have and ye main padhaungi. Because if that student is not capable of understanding it, then it's pointless.
Right.
The curriculum today is too difficult for most students. If you teach a difficult curriculum, right, it's not the same as, say you have 20% curriculum and 100% curriculum. ऐसे नहीं है कि 100% curriculum में पढ़ा रही हूँ तो ये 20% तो आ जाएगा. It's not like that. If I teach this 20%, which is simple, then they'll pick up this 20%. But if I try to teach this 100%, 5% भी नहीं आएगा. Because they're going to be lost, they're going to have no confidence. And if you don't do your first class curriculum properly, how are you going to pick up your second class curriculum?
Right. So for the fundamentals are not strong. What do you think? ऐसा क्यों है कि 50% से ज़्यादा इंडिया में 8वीं क्लास के बच्चों को डिवीजन नहीं आता?
Because it's too difficult.
Hmm.
If teachers don't spend enough time on the simple things, if you move, essentially you're moving too fast.
Right.
That's it. It's as simple as that. You're moving too fast.
Where can we slow down the process?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
So you essentially mean कि 8वीं क्लास के बच्चे को अभी 5वीं क्लास में होना चाहिए. How do you want to slow this? What was
I'm just saying that we don't need to teach as much as we teach. You know, so supposing you just teach math well, teach languages well, बाकी सब तो is general knowledge, right? History, geography, even science is something that you learn through observation or through empiricals. If you know math and you know languages, बाकी सब कुछ तो आ ही जाता है.
Right. And you wanted to say something about the engineering education.
Same thing is for engineering education that I said about school education. It's too difficult and there's too much. We need to simplify. Second, we need to connect it to the problems around us. Like these problems that I told you, transportation or demand modeling or networks, agricultural networks. Teach the courses through that. So that you're not just teaching electrical or civil or computer science, but you're getting them to look at what's around them and connect it. Civil, right? How should the road networks be designed? That's a civil engineering problem. That means that you need to know things like city planning, at least to some extent, or demand, where is the demand coming from? Are these things taught? Or a well? You know, what is the water depth of level in a well in Maharashtra? Civil students, have they ever gone out of their campus and looked at a well? No.
Got it.
So it needs to be much more interdisciplinary and it needs to be connected to the problems which are around us.
So you're saying, let's take a problem statement. This is the problem statement. And now whatever tools we require, and those tools can be very interdisciplinary. And then you work around those. Then you educe people to work on these different tools. And so that you achieve a particular education.
Yeah.
Got it.
And how it evolves will be very different. You know, so you may not be able to imagine it right now, but
it's a very different education. Do you think, are there any, so when we say this is a problem and we agree with that, are there any innovative education models which are trying to solve this in your sense?
That's what CTARA is trying to do for sure. It's because it's multidisciplinary and we try to start with field problems. So there's this initiative called Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan. And what they are doing is a case study approach. That is, that take a case of any, problem. They've been doing this with many colleges in Maharashtra. I mean, they've been trying to spread it and they've even gotten a few credits allotted in the curriculum. That is, look at the problems in your village or in your district or your city and start with it as a case. So you document that, and then documenting, studying and understanding is the start of actually problem solving.
Right. Got it.
And yes, so they are trying to connect it to the governance institutions in the state also. So for instance, the colleges, local colleges and local government bodies should be working with each other. So Zilla Parishad should be able to say, okay, I want the water situation in these villages documented. Ask the local college to do it. This case study approach, connecting local problems to the education, to colleges, and colleges and educational institutions becoming repositories of knowledge of their environment.
Local problems.
Yes, local problems.
Have you thought about future? This is going to happen in the future? About anything?
Say business as usual, future looks really bleak, unfortunately.
Why do you say so?
Well, climate change, capacities, human capabilities in our country. So human resource situation is very bad in our country. And I think that's key.
Because of the education?
Yes.
And when you say human resources, where exactly?
I mean, 80% of the people. Like, look at the maids who come to work for you, or the drivers who come, or the gardeners, or anybody. I mean, the difference, like what you understand, what you know, what you can read, is very different what any of them can do.
Right.
And most of the people are like that.
80% of the people are like this. How can we solve this? by improving education.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Because that's where schools is where you learn, right? School is the place where you learn anything. Or you don't learn. I mean, many people, unfortunately. So yeah, so the future is bleak unless we take these hard problems, which are not hard if we get to them. They are not hard. But you cannot ignore reality. You have to get to the bottom and start, मतलब जो खोलते हैं ना knots.
Right.
So you have to get there and start doing it. You cannot stay at saying कि AI and ML is going to solve it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, the reason I'm doing it is because AI and ML just keeps popping up everywhere. It seems like it's a solution to everything, but it's not.
What are the toughest hard problems that one should, the country, the world should solve? One could be climate change. One could be education. What are some other problems that you think needs to be solved?
See, climate change is, if we solve these problems, climate change will take care of itself.
And what are these problems?
Equality and sustainability. And equality means sustainability, really. Because if you say that equality is important in this world, then everybody has to cut down their, expensive lifestyles. Because everyone can't have that expensive lifestyle. You can't have equality and expensive lifestyle for everyone.
One dilemma which is coming, which is very important. Let's say there was a fact that I heard कि अगर India में consumerism बढ़ता है, and if we start consuming like how America does, the world will be gone. And if we if we educate more people, let's say अभी 80% लोग are non-well educated, and if we educate those people, once they will educate, they will try, their income levels will go more, consumerism will go more, and that kind of expedite the bleak future. How do you solve this dilemma?
Okay, this is really interesting because this is something I think about a lot. We really need to stop being so competitive. To me, competition is a huge, and it is. What is the connection between growth, competition, and getting to the top? These things are all the same. Why does a company need to why do you need growth in the economy? So we need to be at some steady state, and we need to find joy in things which are not connected to money. Of course, everyone should have a decent life of dignity with some basics. That must be there. The reason I think that education is also very important is because right now, I feel really sad. Like once this auto wala, he said, मैंने पूछा कि कितना हो गया है Delhi. So he said, मैं उतना पढ़ा लिखा नहीं हूँ, मुझे अंग्रेजी आती नहीं है. And I felt really sad, for everyone to be in a place where they feel like a citizen, equal to others.
Right.
Where they know that much, and which means that where we all have the same understanding, because their world today is very different from our world.
I can understand that. Yes.
A world where we have that kind of equality and where we get our joy in, say, painting, writing. It doesn't have to be expensive trips to, Hawaii or wherever, or getting, expensive pizza in summer, getting tomatoes or eating beef or whatever it may be. I mean, all these things which are expensive to the natural resources of the world, or getting the next iPhone, which needs like some, complex mineral from somewhere.
Yeah.
Even battery, I mean, like lithium ion. Why do you cut back on things so that you don't need so many resources, but you get your joys from other things? So I think that these things are very connected. Equality, reduction in growth, reduction in competition, and sustainable lives.
An IIT professor saying कि we don't need competition what you're saying is very true. But can we brainstorm and think why competition? In order to come to IIT, there is competition.
Yeah.
So one possible reason I think is because limited set of resources. IITs can only accommodate 600 folks.
Yeah.
And those 600 folks need to be the smartest folks on the planet in the pool. And that's why competition. So that's how competition starts.
So good point. Excellent point.
So how do you...
We don't need IITs. We need lots of colleges which can do basic engineering well. Not, your complicated whatever equations that IIT teaches.
Huh.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. IIT curriculum is very difficult. If you look at the curriculum in, I don't know, Zondar Engineering College in Shahpur, it's no way that the faculty there will be able to teach it. Just no way. But the fact is, you don't need that curriculum which IIT has. You need basic curriculum where I can do basic analysis. So I see that the students who graduate from these regional engineering colleges, right, they cannot do any programming. It's shocking that an engineering student graduates without knowing how to do programming today. It's sad. I'm not blaming them, but it's just really, really sad that they are not able to. And they do some written, I've asked people and they say, we just have a theory course on programming, which is no course in programming. If you're just going to do theory, if you're just going to write a program, that basic stuff is what we need to. Yes, they should know how to do these things, but you don't need to know how to do, I don't know, complicated equations.
What are some things that should be given least amount of appreciation, but we give them the most amount of appreciation or most amount of focus?
For instance, look at this whole thing about unicorns or whatever. We give so much. If some company is sold for some bizarre amount of money, there's so much importance in today's world. I know entrepreneurs make up Plaksha's founders. We really worship people who start companies or run companies, right? So it's like one individual. We attribute the success of this whole thing to one individual. And yes, they may be the people who make it happen, but everybody exists in a society and things come together for many different reasons.
So who should we worship then?
We shouldn't worship any person. We should worship a way of life, maybe.
And as life which is sustainable, a life of equality.
Yes.
What are certain things that gives you real happiness?
Understanding how something works. I love that.
Is there something that you're contrarian about? The world thinks the other way, but you have a very different approach towards something, some different approach, different theory about something.
Yeah, I think this is something that I don't know, but I feel that in general, the world really worships excellence and, doing well and all that. And I have a slightly contrarian approach to that.
So you mentioned about lots of highs and lows in your college days, in your later life. Tell us about one thing that, we can learn from those highs and what those highs and lows have taught you in your life.
Really hard because I don't think the younger self was in any position to listen to anything. She was just doing whatever was she was. I just cannot imagine how I would behave differently if somebody told me something different because that's the person I was then. But I think that one thing I can say is, one lesson I would say is keep a broad and long-term view. Don't get swept by the fashion of the day. But keep building your capabilities. Wherever you are at, try to keep building your capabilities. I think that's what I can say.
Who are some people that you love to learn from?
So I work with my colleague Milind Soni and he's a visionary, really. All these things which I have told you, I have really learned from him. So I'm a big believer that he's always said that we need to change our education system so that it can work for development.
Right.
But I also think that when we connect our education to local problems, you learn better. I think your education, like for instance, as an electrical engineer, when I was in a bachelor's, there was nothing I could connect it to.
Right.
But today, if somebody, these students, I can tell them, okay, here's a power flow model, this is how you do it. And now you can tell what the voltage at that farmer's pump is going to be. That's a very, specific physical thing that equations can be used to project what voltage this person is going to get or what flow rate he's going to get. That was a big insight to me, even as a faculty. So I think as a student, things were very like bookish and I loved the math, but it was all theory.
Got it. No, thanks a lot. This is great. I believe that we were able to get some insights. I have a lot of things to think about. So thanks a lot for this insight and thanks a lot for your time.